Hi everyone, my name is Bing Breton and I'm a professor at the University of Washington in Seattle. It's hard to walk around nowadays without hearing about AI seemingly at every corner that we turn. It's a technology that has pervaded our lives. It's made our lives easier, sometimes more productive, and sometimes just a little bit sillier. Let's look at some examples. So back in 2020 or 2021 or so, a set of technologies came out. This is an early version of GPT, or a large language model that's capable of writing text like humans do. So in this example, we're seeing here is the first 5 lines is a famous poem that was written by a classic poet, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the famous Xanadu poem. And the story goes that Coleridge wrote the first 5 lines of this poetry and then passed out in an opium-induced stupor. And when he woke up, he had absolutely no idea what he was doing and never finished the poem. Here, GPT-3, a product from OpenAI, and finished the poem for him. Now, I'm not going to read the poem out loud, but if you read it, you'll realize that it's not great, but it's actually not bad, which is pretty remarkable given that it was written by an AI. It even had his turns of phrase, the indentation works, and so this is really remarkable technology that came out around 2020, 2021 or so. Very quickly afterwards, this idea of having AI that's able to generate new content that people have not been created before came out in the way of DALL-E 2 and a variety of different generative image technologies of the same kind. So here's my favorite example of this. The prompt was a photo of a confused grizzly bear in calculus class. So we all saw this flurry of generated images on the internet. And it made things easier, like making illustrations. It made things a little bit sillier. And it also made it a little more confusing when you're looking at a photo or a video, whether or not it's real or not. Of course, now it's the year 2024, and so the technology has gone way beyond just generating new content, but generating interactive abilities. So here in an article written in the New York Times, the journalist Kevin Ross decided to make some AI friends as companions for a month and tried it out. And he had meaningful conversations with some of these AIs and not with others. And the fact that we can do this, if we take a moment and pause here, is just absolutely astonishing. I think nobody could have really predicted that this is where we would be in the year 2024, 10 or 15 years ago. It was, I think, a technology at the pace of technology has gone way beyond what many people had predicted. So it seems by many people like this almost came out of nowhere. Like, how did we even get here? How is this the world that we live in right now? Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably not only heard about AI, but the phrase neural networks. And so what I'm talking about here today in this next set of videos is actually explaining why these neural networks are called neural networks. Why do they have something to do with neurons and brains? This is not happening in isolation. This is not just a cute turn of phrase to talk about an artificial intelligence. In fact, we're going to be talking about neural networks, minds, and machine intelligence, and the rich intellectual history going back over 100 years at the heart of neurobiology, mathematics, and computing, and how all of these interdisciplinary fields have mutually informed and inspired each other in a really fascinating historical story of how all of this happened. So if I may make an analogy here, and this is something that I like talking about, is a neural network in the way that it powers modern AI right now is kind of like if you built a facsimile of New York City, but you built it in Minecraft. It's pretty sophisticated. It has lots of the same parts as actual New York City, but you sure can't get yelled at by a cab driver as you're eating a bagel, right? That's not something you can do in Minecraft. So it has a lot, it's really sophisticated, but it's also missing a lot of the complexity and richness and the things that make New York City actually New York City. I'm going to take the analogy a step further and say that you often hear about neurons or neural units or nodes in a neural network. So a neuron, in the way that it's conceived of in a neural network, an artificial neural network, is to a cat as a Picasso is to an actual cat. It captures a lot of the essence and features of a cat, but it's really like just a sketch of an actual neuron. And so what I'm going to be talking to you about over the next several videos is this idea that there's an interwoven history here. And the history, as I've already alluded to, goes back over 100 years. And what we can see here is that as knowledge in neurobiology, as scientific discovery of how brains and nervous systems actually work in humans and other related animals has progressed through the last century or so, there has been a commensurate amount of progress as inspiration goes back and forth between neurobiology and computing and mathematics in terms of how we eventually got to the modern technologies we have now in generative AI, these artificial neural networks that power things like ChatGPT and DALL-E and a variety of generative technologies like that. So we're going to spend a little bit of time going through these technologies and the different scientific discoveries that underlie it. For further reading, I highly recommend this book, Models of the Mind by Grace Lindsay. There's a lot more details in there, and it's reading this book has taught me a lot about this history as well. So the plan going forward is, here's the itinerary, here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to go through the early history of neurobiology, this idea that we even have a brain, and the brain's actually important in terms of how we think. And there are 4 key insights in neurobiology that have percolated through and then eventually culminated in the development of modern AI and modern artificial neural networks. And we're going to go through each of them. I'm going to summarize them here, and they are the fact that neurons can compute. You know, this is some kind of obvious to us now that the neurons are computational machines. It was not obvious back then, and it was really revolutionary discovery and insight at the time. We had then discovered that these networks of neurons, not neural networks, networks of neurons, can learn and adapt by changing their connections. This is something that you can very much observe in yourself anytime you learn a new skill. Your brain and nervous system is capable of acquiring new capabilities if you experience them. And the way in which biological learning takes place has also percolated into the theory of how we learn and train artificial neural networks in fields like reinforcement learning and now deep reinforcement learning. We know that brain circuits are not randomly connected. It's not just a ball of spaghetti. They actually have distinct architecture. And so as a neurobiology, our knowledge of how brains have architecture, this architecture underlies the functionality of brains, making it easier, more robust to learn things, to survive unexpected things like having a catastrophic injury, for example. These are insights that also percolated into the development of modern artificial intelligence and neural networks as well. And then finally, at the end, we'll talk a little bit about recurrence, the fact that there's one of the distinct parts of neural architecture is that connections don't just go forward, they also come back. So this kind of recurrence is an idea that is instantiated in abstraction in modern recurrent neural networks. And this is a really wonderful thing, even though it makes things a little more complicated to train and learn, because it implements memory. And that is one of the key features of biological organisms. We don't just respond instantaneously to the present, we remember the past, and we use our past and memory to both form a sense of identity, but also to inform better decisions in the future. And it's very much a capability that we would like our artificial intelligence systems to have as well. That's why you can have a chatbot like a ChatGPT that remembers your past conversations, remembers what you talked about yesterday and your trials and tribulations, so it can be a better friend to you in the future. All right, so this is the plan. I'm really excited to get started, and let's get to the next video.